I would like to start this video with a quotation from Uncle Jackson's first book. There he wrote, "Since the stones at Bukit Sagang and the ancient stonewares cannot speak, and the indigenous people did not have a written historical record, it was with these questions in mind I started on a journey of writing a book, not knowing exactly where to begin or to end up." And now let me show you the dedication page of his first book. Usually, most books have a dedication page, and usually it will be dedicated to one spouse or children or parents. Uncle Jackson was not married, so his book's dedication page is the most peculiar. He dedicated his book in this way: "For those who pile stones in Borneo, whose history has now vanished." It is short and poetic. So let me try and translate what he meant by these words to all of you. In a way, he dedicated his books to the dead. Some of them are our ancestors who are voiceless and forgotten by history. In short, the books that Uncle Jackson wrote was a way to respect the dead. He was giving a voice to those who passed away, our ancestors who never got a chance to tell their story. And so, he did it for them in the best way he could. And thus his two books were born. Probably some of you will find the title of this video weird because it says Jackson Gaban's online wake service number 5, message from Jackson Gaban. What I am trying to do in this video is to share with all of you how Uncle Jackson is still speaking to us today. Let me explain. In one of my last interactions with Uncle Jackson, we were both at Hospital Lotong. He was hospitalized then. Auntie Willin just went home to rest, and for that evening I took over hospital duty from her. The doctor told me that we will have to transfer Uncle Jackson from Hospital Lotong to QEH in KK. So the doctor asked me to help Uncle pack his things, as they will have to do a procedure that will make him unconscious. This is so that he could travel to from Kota Marudu to Kota Kinabalu with less complication. So he had to pack his things before he became unconscious. So I had to help him. He was still awake at that time, and the nurses were busy preparing him for the ambulance ride. So I approached him. I said to him, "Uncle, let me help you keep your bag." And he said, "Amu," loudly and angrily. And he clutched his small bag tightly and asked me instead, "Call Welin or Solin." So he rejected my offer to help him at that moment and insisted that I called his sister right at that moment. It almost felt like every eyes in that ward, that hospital ward, were looking at us. One thing was clear to me at that time, that something precious was inside his bag. And one of his last acts that evening was to protect it. It was later that I found out from Auntie Willin that in that small bag was his 2 books. Auntie Willin said that he would carry his books wherever he goes. So what I'm trying to tell all of you is this: even though Uncle Jackson is gone, his books can still speak for him. These books are precious to him, and perhaps when we read it, we can hear his voice and listen to his final thoughts. What are the ways that we can hear him speak to us? In retrospect, especially when we remember back to what his actions were. Probably we can interpret those actions as words that he never managed to speak to us. In his final days, Uncle was bedridden. His speech was limited. But perhaps towards the end of his life, he was capable of perhaps tiny or even micro nano movements, a grunt here and there. So especially for those, my message is, for those who cared for him, you probably want to recall and cherish these micro or nano movements with him. Perhaps they can bring fresh moments of memory, what he wanted to say to you. Because he was unable then to use his vocal cords to speak to you. So now I want to talk to the caregivers. To the caregivers, perhaps he never said thank you for taking care of him in his final days. Maybe at the time he was physically unable to do so. Even to breathe was a Herculean task for him. He needed oxygen tanks to help him breathe. What more to speak? So again, I want to share with all of you that if he was able to talk to you, I'm sure he will thank you. Now, how am I confident about this? And again, I would like to refer to what he did in the past with respect to his book, when he was writing his book. I want to illustrate this to you, and please look at this. At the screen now, I'm showing you the thank you page of his first book. Again, look what he did here. This is a giant list of all the people who helped him. He took time writing this, listing down every name, people who helped him. There was a sense of gratitude. So, to the caregivers, Auntie Mollen, Auntie Patricia, Auntie Ellen, Auntie Wellen, and anyone that I failed to mention here, if you miss him, please know that even though he couldn't say thank you to you in his usual normal way when he was healthy, know that each one of you have a special place in his heart. He says thank you to all of you for your love and care in his final days. Just in the same way how he thanked all of those people who helped him in his books, I'm sure he would say the same thank you to you. Now, I would like to turn to family members and friends, to those of you who gave your time, your money, your prayers to help Uncle Jackson in his final days. You know who you are. I will not name you one by one here, but as an exhibit, this is my WhatsApp feed. Each time Uncle was hospitalized again or in need of something to extend his life, all of you selflessly organize on your own without needing much prodding. Jump in, send in money to Florence, visited him at the hospital, offered your prayers, brought equipments, and in the end also helped in laying him to rest. Please know that Uncle Jackson says thank you to each one of you. There is an unwritten page of thanks somewhere in his mind to thank each one of you. So as we come to a close of this week of prayer service, let's remember him, let's respect his life, let's celebrate his life, and let's remember the good memories that we have with him. No human being is perfect, and no relationship is going to be smooth in a lifetime, in his lifetime, with any one of us. But that is not important anymore. What we want to do now is basically remembering all the good memories that we have with him. Let's remember only the good. Now for this part of the video, I want to take you home. This is his home, and it will forever be a non-verbal reminder of his life, of how he was before he left us. And I was told that he was hoping that one day he could have a foundation. Perhaps a gallery will be built here to showcase his life as well as the ideas from his book. So in closing, I want to share you the following. Someone wise once wrote these words, and there are so many versions of them, and this is the version that I would like to quote here. Before you die, make sure you do the following: plant a tree, write a book, have a child. Now, Uncle Jackson did all of this except one. As a farmer, I'm sure he definitely must have planted a lot of trees. And before he entered his rest, he wrote one. Actually, he wrote 2 books. Not 1 book, 2 books. But there is one thing missing: have a child. Yes, he did say that his books are his children. But what the quote is referring to here is different. It's talking about living children. So before he died, he told his sisters that he wished to have a foundation. Perhaps to do the same thing that was given to him. Perhaps in this way, through this foundation, he will not have a child, but plenty of children that will be helped by his foundation. Perhaps Uncle Jackson's dream of having a foundation is a way to thank his second father, Tun Fuad Donald Stevens. For the young ones, you probably don't know him, but he was Sabah's first chief minister. Probably this is a way for Uncle Jackson to thank this man for educating him and taking him to be part of his family. This is a short snippet what Uncle Jackson wrote about Tun Fuad in his book. He says, "My profound gratitude to the late Tun Muhammad Fuad Stevens, who encouraged me to read, which otherwise this book would never have been written." So to my aunt, let's make this foundation happen. And to all my family members, let's help whatever we can to make this a reality. So how can you help? So at the moment, they are at the final leg of editing his books. And the intention is to be publishing them in the US. So if you want to have a copy, so in the description, there will be a link that you can click to book yourself a copy. We don't know how much it's going to be yet, but we will update you once we reach that bridge. And the proceeds from this book will go to his foundation. As our reflection tonight, I want to share a few thoughts from a group called the Stoics. And this is what they say about death, about life, and about mourning the dead. So I quote, "People we love die. People we need die. People we don't know die. And eventually, we will die ourselves." So in a way, death is something natural, something we all cannot avoid. And this is why in life, we must know what we can control and what we cannot control. To illustrate, we cannot control if it rains today or tomorrow, but we can control how we respond to the rain. We cannot control if new viruses evolve and emerge today or tomorrow, but we can control how we maintain cleanliness in our lives to avoid infection. And we cannot control if we die today or tomorrow, but one thing we can control is how we live our life at each moment in the present. Another Stoic wrote, and I quote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." So as a closing prayer, we're going to do this together this evening. Okay? For the past few days, we have had our speakers pray for all of us. But for tonight's final service, let's do something different and short. I want to invite you to together recite what is called as the Niebuhr's. Niebuhr was a theologian. Serenity prayer together. This prayer has given comfort to many who faced dark and challenging moments in their life. This prayer that we are about to recite together is a prayer so that we can find wisdom of how to live our life in challenging times, so that we know the difference between what we can control and what we cannot control. So I invite you, let's all say this together. God, grant me the peace to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. To this we say, Amen. We will have an online 1-year anniversary for the passing of Mantan KK Assan Gaban on April 16, 7:30 p.m. It will also be hosted in the same way on YouTube. So if you want to join me to create this program together, please contact me, okay? So you can see a tentative outline of our program at this link. So you can also click on this link at the description. And if you want to join this service, please make sure that you click subscribe and press the bell icon so that YouTube can remind you in 2 weeks' time when the service is about to be online. So as we close tonight's service, I want to share you a few more songs that were sent to me today. So as we listen to all of these songs, let's continue our reflection. So I want to thank you for joining this service, and till we meet again, stay safe and know that you all are loved.
redeemed. How I love to proclaim it, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, redeemed through His infinite mercy, His child, and forever I am redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, redeemed. How I love to proclaim it, His child, and forever I am. Amat senang aku kabarkan hal tebusan darahnya Yesus, rahmatnya yang penuh kasihan, jadikan aku miliknya. Aku sudah ditebus oleh darahnya. Amat senang aku kabarkan hal tebusan darahnya Yesus. Aku sudah ditebus oleh darahnya. Amat senang aku kabarkan hal tebusan